Ever thought about making a podcast? Well, Anchor is the easiest and simplest way to do so. Let me explain. For starters, it's free. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone, laptop, or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on multiple platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, and much, much more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need in a podcast in one place. So give it a try. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm Will Spalding, and as always, I'm joined today by my co-host, Sam Dierberger. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Will?
Good. It's good to be back. So welcome back, everyone, to Those Film Nerds podcast. It's always a pleasure to be here talking movies. But
because
Sam,
we'd be doing it anyway. We'd be doing it anyway.
It's true. It's true.
Might as well record it.
The court said we do have to talk about movies, so we were like, I guess we can record it, but it's pretty much what happened. As all of our fellow Spanish classmates know.
That's true. That's very true.
It's true.
That was those poor people were subjected to so much film discussion.
Yes.
And you guys are listening to it on your free time. Imagine that.
By the way, this is literally just for Sam and I, but I'm going to say it anyway. I was talking to a friend of the show this week. I'll let you know who it is later, Sam. He is actually taking college Spanish, like Spanish in college. He's doing it willingly.
No way.
And I was just like, what the heck? It's our good friend who's going to St. Louis University.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's taking Spanish in college.
Ugh.
I blocked his number. Don't worry.
Ugh.
I've already blocked
him. I have another point on that, but I'll tell you after the episode. But anyway, moving on from the inside banter, I suppose. I'm sorry.
This is then behind the scenes of no, just kidding. But we got a packed episode today, so we're gonna have to move right along. Actually, we're gonna do the 6 steps series of connecting two actors. We're gonna talk some industry news. I think we have 4 segments to cover, and each of them could be an episode of their own. So we're gonna have to shorten that to maybe 5 minutes each, and then we're gonna have some Inception talk, which I just spoiled actually. Oops. All right. Erase that. That. Sam.
Erase it.
What are we talking today?
Today we're talking about it's been removed from my consciousness. No, I'm just kidding. We're talking about Inception.
There's one thing you should know about me. I specialize in a very specific type of security. Subconscious security. You're talking about dreams.
Boom, Inception. Even though I spoiled it. Sorry, everyone, if you didn't read the episode title. But no, man. We're throwing it back 10 years to Christopher Nolan's Inception on its 10-year anniversary, as well as in preparation to be completely mind screwed up by Tenet, which will come out in 3 years. So that'll be fun.
It'll come out sometime in the next 10 years.
Well, before we do all that, let's talk about a couple actors, and then let's get into some industry news.
Yeah. All right.
I feel like
two actors.
I feel like you're going to give me a real tough one today.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if you even know who this actor is. I mean, I know you've seen movies with him in it, but I'm not sure if you know who he is because he's kind of relatively unknown. But I would like you to connect Jack Huston, Huston, He played Pete Musain in American Hustle. He played Robert F. Kennedy in The Irishman.
Okay, I'm only looking on the internet just to see what this guy looks like, and then maybe
He,
I can.
let's see, what else was it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I do know who he is. Okay.
Yep, and I would like you to connect him to. Let's do someone a little easier because he's kind of unknown. Maybe should we say like, oh, what's his name? See, folks, I have trouble literally just Googling, like finding people for Will to get, because like I have to search deep and wide to be able to find someone that he knows of but won't be able to connect.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll do what's his name? I have his face in mind.
Just
He just
Google
came to me.
image search his face.
Tim Blake Nelson. Tim Blake Nelson.
From Coen Brothers fame. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see here. Okay, so I will do Jack Huston in American Hustle because that's a large cast.
Yeah.
With I'm gonna go with Amy. No, do I want to do Amy Adams? Maybe. Okay, actually, I'll start with Tim Blake Nelson. I guess I'll do Tim Blake Nelson and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Sure.
With Mr. Clooney. I'll do Clooney in. Oh, here we go. I'll do Clooney in Ocean's 11 with Matt Damon. Matt Damon in Ford v Ferrari with Christian Bale. Christian Bale in American Hustle with Jack Huston.
Okay. I actually found a loophole. You could have done that in 2.
Oh, really? What's that?
You could have done Huston in Hail Caesar, who he was in Hail. He had a very minor role in Hail Caesar, apparently. I didn't know this.
Okay.
I was looking at his filmography.
And then you go to Clooney in Hail Caesar.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That would have been a good one. No, that was good. That was good. All right. But I don't want to waste too much time with this. So
yes.
I did it. Check mark. Email in if you have any, thosefilmnerds@gmail.com, if you have any uber difficult ones you'd like me to do.
Sure.
But let's go on to some industry news. I have 3, although
okay.
Sam also has kind of the same one as I do now that we both know what we're talking about. Let's hear yours, your one original one first, Sam.
My original one.
Yeah.
The one I found is, I'm not sure if I have the complete story on this, but apparently Tenet is going to be released in China soon. And
it's going to hit
appears
markets.
It hit the Chinese markets because they were the first to be ravaged by COVID-19. But so you would hope they basically have herd immunity by now and everyone can go to the theater. But anyway, they released an exclusive trailer to China for Tenet. The first part of the trailer is actually Christopher Nolan himself, just kind of talking about big event cinema with like Chinese subtitles on the bottom, and then it cuts to kind of a little snippet of a trailer, and it seems to be a woman's voiceover, and she seems to be explaining how the time loop concept in Tenet works. It's not a time travel movie per se, is kind of what we found out, but it has to do with, I guess, reversing time within a moment. It's not like you hop into a time machine and then you end up in a different time period. It's just like you're moving a glass forward and then you're able to move the glass back or like something like that.
Interesting.
And it's there's a shot in this new trailer where John David Washington is walking and he steps on a puddle, but the water goes opposite to what you would expect it to. Like it basically goes in reverse, the way it swooshes. So it's kind of explained as these characters. So John David Washington's character has kind of like the opposite effect on time, kind of like he touches something and it goes in reverse from what it should do, is kind of how it's explained. But again, even Kenneth Branagh, who is in this film, has said in interviews that he himself doesn't really understand the film.
Well,
various cast members and crew don't really understand it completely.
I'll just say this.
Yeah.
The movie we're about to talk about later has a lot of explaining, and it's perfectly followable. So I'm assuming Tenet will be no different than Inception. Also, interestingly enough, I saw Nolan said sometime earlier this week that there are likely more visual effects in a rom-com than in Tenet. So almost all of this will be practical effects.
What? That's insane.
Yeah, so good for Nolan, because we're all about practical effects. Do what you can. If you need to use CGI, use it. But if you can do it, please, you know?
But yeah, you got to see the shot of John David Washington stepping in water.
So, yeah, everyone go check that out.
Like, it's weird to see, and I don't know how you would do that practically, but man.
I'm assuming – I have to assume that they just shot it as he's walking in water and it went normal, and then they did some editing tricks. I don't know if that's CGI, though. They probably just reversed it. That's not really CGI. I'm assuming that's what they did. I know I've seen a clip of John David Washington firing a gun as well, but like the bullet comes back into the gun instead of at the target, which is also
exactly.
Like gosh, this just looks insane.
Yeah. So everyone, I found it. It got leaked, so it's not an official trailer for the United States. It's an official trailer for China, as far as I can tell. And it says that it's from a YouTuber named Gavin Fang. And it says in the description that Tenet will be out September 4th in Chinese theaters. And the thumbnail is Christopher Nolan with Chinese subtitles underneath him. So that's pretty interesting. But like I said, it's Nolan talking for probably 30 seconds, and then it cuts to kind of the trailer. But instead of it is Chinese lettering, like Chinese titles in it. Yeah. So it's kind of funny to watch. But yeah. So definitely check that out.
Cool, awesome. I haven't even seen that, so I'll definitely look at that as well. But let's move on to the next topic. I'm going to bring one up here, and then I'll let you do one more, and then I'll do one to finish it off.
Sure.
Paul Thomas Anderson announced something about his next movie.
Yep.
Obviously, PTA, one of our favorite directors. He made one of my very favorite movies of all time with Boogie Nights, and he's obviously super talented. Yep. He's making a 1970s high school movie, untitled as of right now, starring Bradley Cooper, maybe as a parent figure or a teacher. So that's interesting.
So I've been aware that he was making a high school movie set in the San Fernando Valley because, it's a PTA movie. Of course, it's in the San Fernando Valley. But I've been aware of that since, like, January, I think. But I didn't know that Bradley Cooper was cast. Bradley
Cooper just got cast this week, or it was at least announced this week. How do you feel about that?
I don't. Bradley Cooper has had such a weird career.
I love Bradley Cooper. I think he's great. I'm interested in his directing after A Star Is Born, although I didn't really like that movie. I definitely saw potential in him.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in this because I like Cooper. I like him a lot.
Yeah. He's a good actor. I don't think his choices in the roles he takes is always great. But he's pretty. I guess he's pretty versatile. I could see him as a teacher. Hasn't he already? Oh, he played a teacher in The Hangover. Wasn't he a teacher?
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah. The Hangover is one of the most overrated comedy movies ever.
There's like 3 funny
By the
parts
way.
in The Hangover.
If you need Mike Tyson to come in the middle of your movie to get some cheap laughs, then you know you've screwed up.
You want to know what's funniest about Paul Thomas Anderson is that like half of his movies are set in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
The dude was born in 1970. Like he didn't even really live then. I mean, he lived until he was 10, but like he don't really remember. Like, do you remember anything about 2005? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's nostalgic for something that never really happened.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
But then again, I mean, I think a lot of filmmakers are like that.
No,
like,
I understand.
They're kind of romantic for a time that they never experienced.
Yeah.
Rose-tinted glasses, as we say.
Either way,
yeah.
Bradley Cooper in a PTA movie has not happened yet, which is interesting because PTA does like to reuse his former cast members. So
that is true. That is true.
But we'll have to see. That'll probably come out 2022, if I were to guess, since it's untitled as of right now.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to start filming like during the spring, but obviously COVID threw things off.
Yeah, I'll say 2022 probably. We can expect some Oscars.
God, I hope so. It is strange. Like you don't see, PTA is considered kind of a master of the industry. But you don't see a lot of these auteur directors making high school movies. You know what I mean? Like usually high school movies are reserved for, the Kissing Booth on Netflix or whatever.
My favorite movie of 2020. So,
well, easily that or Eurovision. That's one of the two.
One of the two. Not sure which one. No, let's move on to the next topic. Sam, this one I know will excite you. What's happening?
We're getting, we have Mank coming out with Gary Oldman and David Fincher about the writing of Citizen Kane. And then we have movies about making movies. We have The Disaster Artist.
Yeah, so love The Disaster Artist. Great movie.
I love The Disaster Artist. I think it's great. But it's kind of a bizarre concept, making a movie about making a movie.
Yeah.
But
it works.
It's usually interesting, especially if the movie is good. Yeah. And in this case, this movie is beyond good, beyond great. I'm talking, of course, about one of my favorite movies, Chinatown.
Yes.
Is finally getting a movie made about itself. And we're not talking about, a stupid documentary, although I would love to see Nicholson get interviewed in 2020 because, he's getting up there in the years. But we're not talking about a documentary. We are talking about essentially biopic of how this movie got made, how Robert Towne wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
And it's all based on this book written by this guy named Sam Wasson, I believe is his name.
Big Goodbye is what it's called.
Watson. It's called The Big Goodbye. And yeah. And Will and I were talking before the show, but we've both been meaning to read that book for a long time now.
Yeah, I've been recommended it a ton of times. I definitely, now I need to check it out. Now I need to read it. And I don't know if you said, but Ben Affleck directing, which is interesting.
Yes.
I'm excited about that. Affleck is a good director. I hope he does not cast himself in the movie, but he is a good director.
Yeah. Sorry, this is the next thing though, the next logical question, and that is who is going to play Nicholson?
And who's going to play Polanski? I'm more.
Well, you could get the guy from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to play Polanski.
No, they're not doing that.
You could.
Can you imagine it'd be the same cinematic universe? The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Big Goodbye cinematic universe. That's what it's going to be called.
No, but as I've said before, as I've said before about Chinatown, the Manson family murders of Sharon Tate were fundamental to how Chinatown was made, because Robert Towne wrote 2 versions for the ending, and one ending to Chinatown. I don't want to spoil anything, but one ending to Chinatown, it ended very well. And the real ending to Chinatown ends pretty tragically. And because Polanski was still in the dark mood from his wife's murder 5 years previously, he said the studios wanted the happy ending, and Polanski said no, it's got to be dark. So it's kind of, terrible tragedy fuels great art like that. And so it'll be interesting how they handle that whole story.
Sure.
But who would you pick? Okay, so who would you pick? Who would you cast as Polanski, and who would you cast as Nicholson?
So I was just brainstorming a little bit. So this one might be an outside the box choice. And hear me out, because this guy does some bad movies, but he's a very good actor.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy for Nicholson. I think he's a good actor, not a good decision maker. We don't even have to talk about that one.
There is a video on YouTube of it's actually from like a Japanese TV show, but it's Leonardo DiCaprio doing impressions of
I don't see
celebrities.
Leo as Jack Nicholson though.
His impression of Jack Nicholson is spot on.
I just don't see him as.
He has the eyebrows down, and it was perfect. I can't see him as Nicholson, but I'm just throwing that out there. Also, who would you cast as real quick? Who would you cast as Faye Dunaway?
Margot Robbie. God.
I was going to say Charlize Theron.
I just watched the Charlize movie today, so I'm on a Charlize high right now. So, yeah, give her all the movies. She is incredible. I love Charlize. Yeah, actually, Charlize would be great. She kind of has that same look, too. Tall, blonde hair. I could see it.
Blondish brunette, yeah. Yeah.
So
she'd be perfect.
Yeah. Do you have anyone in mind for Nicholson or
I would do.
I'm not good at this, to be honest. I can't think of a name and be like, yeah, they'd be great for this. So
you would have to get someone who's. You'd almost need someone kind of younger. I mean, Jack himself was in his 30s when he did this movie. I think he was late 30s.
I was gonna say I would have. Here's one: Matt Damon, 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
I don't know if Matt Damon has that range.
Dude, Matt Damon is a great actor.
Is he?
Yes, he is. Damon is 49. He's a little 10 years ago is exactly right.
Yeah. I think that's where Jack was at the time.
Just put Bale as Polanski. He'll just do a physical change and it'll be fine.
Dude, Christian Bale could play Jack Nicholson.
He could play anyone. Doesn't matter.
He could play anyone, but it's going to have to be someone who has the ability, like Leonardo DiCaprio, like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, to be acting, to be an actor within an actor.
You're right.
When you're an actor playing a character, you have to have a lot of layers, and it's got to be. It's hard to do.
So, and the age range is tough too. You have to be 30 to 45, and that might be a broad range. Maybe it's more probably 35 to 40, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or at least be able to look younger or something.
Right. So, yeah, maybe if Cillian Murphy was American.
Is it Cillian or Killian?
Is it Killian? I don't know.
I don't know either.
How old is Cillian Murphy?
I'll say like 33.
He's 44. What?
Really? Wow, he looks young. Good for him. He looks great.
He does look really good. Side note, I was watching Joe Rogan and he had Rob Lowe on. Rob Lowe is 56 years old, and
He looks like
honestly,
24.
he looks like he could be 34.
Yeah. All right, let's
That's
move on from this because we're gonna hit one more thing before we get into Inception. And I'm sure everyone has heard about this. Those past three news, we like to consider ourselves a news outlet.
We basically those film nerds news outlets.
No, I'm sure everyone's heard about this. Mulan being put on Disney Plus for $30.
Hey,
I'm assuming you heard about that. Did you?
yeah, I did.
Isn't that awesome?
I literally don't care because I wasn't.
Why is Disney doing this? Do they need money? That's my question.
Yes, they do. They lost their revenue went down like 70% in the last quarter.
Huh. I just think this is a bad move. The budget of Mulan is $200 million. I'm sure they put $200 million of advertising in it.
Yeah.
And you're selling it for $30 a pop, and you have 60 million subscribers. So even if every single one of them bought it, you'd have 1.8 billion, but like not even a third to a quarter of people are going to buy it. So it just feels like you're losing money.
You don't have to be. I didn't think you had to be a subscriber to be able to buy it, right?
Oh, that's not how I understood it.
Oh, I only read the headline.
I thought you had to be a subscriber to then purchase it, because you need to log in as a subscriber to. But I guess I don't know. That's a good question.
I thought they were just doing like, it's like a home theater thing, right? It's like a home release, like they did with Trolls or Trolls World.
Well, that's better than what I had thought, because then it's like you're telling people to pay, essentially. That's okay.
I think they're just factoring it in, like, you know, dad, a mom, and a kid goes to see it at a movie theater. Tickets are about $10 a pop, and then $30.
That's why you can't sell it for $8, because you need because 50 people could be watching it for all you know.
Exactly. So you get one of these people who have a little bit of ingenuity and a large backyard and a wall and a very nice projector. They buy that sucker for $30. They charge people $5 a pop to come on in, sit in their backyard, have a little theater experience. Boom, you're up hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
There's a whole Simpsons episode based on that.
Are you serious?
Yeah, where Homer starts a home theater in his backyard, and like the FBI has to come and stop him, and it's just so funny. In this made-up Simpsons land, the entire FBI is dedicated to stopping pop-up movie theater backyards. It's so stupid. By the way, check out The Simpsons. Everyone just needs to watch The Simpsons. I don't think people realize how much.
It's no joke. It's fantastic.
I don't think people realize how much of like modern comedy comes from The Simpsons.
Yes.
Like there have been so many writers that have passed through that room, that like Conan and like 50% of great comedians have probably walked through The Simpsons writing room, anywhere from 1989 to 2020. So
100%.
Check out The Simpsons, but we're not here to talk about The Simpsons, I suppose. But Sam, do you have any more thoughts or anything else, industry news wise, from these four things, or anything more to bring to the table?
I don't believe so. But I did read something interesting today that Amazon is in talks. I don't know if this is true. This might be wishful thinking, but this is true. This is true right here. Amazon is in talks with Simon Malls, which is the largest mall leader in the country,
Mm.
or mall leasing company in the country, to basically take all of the bankrupted JCPenney stores and the bankrupted Sears stores that are within Simon Malls and use those as Amazon fulfillment centers. And I read a tweet from someone. So again, this is a tweet. This isn't like an article or anything. But I read a tweet that said, like, could this be like Amazon trying to, could you go to an Amazon fulfillment center and like pick up a DVD or like browse DVDs like you would do in
Like a Blockbuster?
like the old days at Blockbuster. And again, on this tweet, I read a ton of comments. There was like, you're an idiot. Why would they do that? But like, I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen. That's probably wishful thinking. I'm sure you could like probably order a DVD and then pick it up there, but browsing, that's probably wishful thinking.
Interesting. All right. One more thing before we talk the movie that we will be discussing. Cate Blanchett as the woman in Chinatown. Yes? No?
Yeah.
It feels like it's tough because it's just I'm like typecasting like their physical looks, but I guess that's kind of what you have to do, sort of, you know?
Yeah, Kate might be a little old.
Maybe.
Kate's in her I think she might be in her 50s now, right?
I don't know. Look that up.
Oh my God, she's 51. She still looks like she's in her 30s, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think she could pull it off.
such ridiculous talent, Cate Blanchett.
Absolutely. But Sam, are we ready to talk? Are we ready to talk Inception?
I believe we are.
Create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their secrets.
Then you break in and steal it.
Well, it's not strictly speaking legal. It's called Inception.
It's called Inception. Yeah, so we're talking Chris Nolan's Inception, as we said, 10-year anniversary, and we're prepping for Tenet as well.
We're prepping for Tenet.
And there were no streaming movies coming out this week, so you choose either one of the three reasons why we're doing it. Whichever
You can choose. You can choose. This is our first. We came back to basically, I guess, a retrospective review on a movie that came out 10 years ago.
Sure. Yeah, I think we'll end up doing more of these on like we said, anniversaries of movies that we like that are having a 10 or 20, 25, whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe maybe we'll do a Paul Thomas Anderson when the new movie of his is coming out, or something like that. We'll see.
Yeah.
What we want to do. Yeah. And ultimately, it's our show, so you guys can't do whatever. You just have to listen. So.
Well, I mean, if y'all would email in.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I'm serious. If you emailed in, we would 100%
do your favorite movie or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I would. I don't care. You know.
Either way, let's talk Inception. What's your exposure to this movie, or what's your exposure to Nolan, etc.? Just give me your background. I suppose. Plus,
I get yeah.
Three thoughts of Inception.
Inception is one of the greatest movies that combines a big event cinema theater experience with something that's takes a lot of time to think about.
Yes.
I mean, it's a deeply, I suppose, cerebral movie, and it's also it works incredibly well as just a dumb action movie at the same time.
It's a great action movie. I think that gets left out of a lot of the conversation.
Yes.
I will
But
say.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, by dumb, I just mean like you don't have to think very much when you're watching it if you don't choose to.
Yeah.
You don't have to choose to pay attention. Like the movie does a good job of keeping you engaged while also not demanding too much of your attention if you don't want to give it to it, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just want to tell this quick story. Interestingly enough, so about a year ago, I'm watching this movie, and I think I texted you actually, and I was like, "Dude, watch Inception. Oh my gosh, this is insane." And then you texted back like 30 minutes later. You're like, "I'm literally watching it right now." Before you even texted me, I was like,
Yes,
"What
I was
is
like
going
halfway
on?"
through it. I was halfway through it. I hadn't even looked at Letterboxd or anything. It was scary.
I was still watching it when I texted you too. Like we were watching it at the same time. Just didn't talk. It was just so weird. Anyway,
It was both our first times.
Super weird, but really.
But the thing that I was getting to though is with the whole like kind of action movie yes, mold. I had always heard that Inception was really, really good, but I heard that mostly from people who just go to the movie theater like twice a year to watch Avengers movies. So I was like, yeah, there's Inception. I mean, it's there, you know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I watched it that I actually appreciated the genius, the sheer genius that went into it.
So as you say the word genius, I like that to describe Chris Nolan. What's your background on him as a director / writer?
I think, well, okay.
Someone
no,
called
I
him the
saw,
auteur blockbuster director.
yes.
Anyway.
He can make blockbusters
For adults
that,
almost, right?
I think they're blockbusters that teenagers enjoy watching, but only adults can truly appreciate.
Oh, okay. I like
is,
that. Yeah.
Like it's a PG-13. He makes PG-13 movies, but really you need to be older to
Understand
truly understand it, I guess.
Sure. So I'm sorry. What's your? How do you like Chris Nolan? Let's just get that.
I think Chris Nolan is pushing the envelope in terms of what cinema can do. He's literally every movie he makes, he changes the medium. For better or for worse, he's basically, I guess, there's things I've seen in Christopher Nolan movies that literally have never been done before.
Until he does them.
You know, there's a good set number of ways to classify directors. You can classify them as an auteur or as kind of a utility. You can classify them as more interested in style, their individual style versus, I guess, being, fitting into the mold and being unrecognizable. And then you can classify them as kind of trying to perfect cinema, and then you can classify them as trying to push cinema. And Christopher Nolan is definitely the latter. He is interested in changing it and seeing where it can go. He's not interested in perfecting something that's already been done.
That's interesting. One more question before I get into my general thoughts. What are like your 3 favorite Nolan movies? And where does this kind of sit? Where does Inception sit?
Inception is up there. I think that Dunkirk is probably his best.
Really?
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I used to say Inception, but I think Dunkirk is a better made movie from start to finish, better written certainly. And I mean Well, okay, no, I take that back. Now I take it back. I mean, The Prestige is so good. I take it back. The Prestige is better than Dunkirk. But The Prestige, Inception, and Dunkirk are all very close to each other. All great, great movies.
Yes. I think my top three would probably be Prestige, Memento. I'm a big Memento nerd, to be honest.
Yeah.
And Inception, I would say, are my top three.
Yeah.
But I love all Chris Nolan movies.
Yeah. It goes without saying he has not made a bad movie.
Yes. I would say my least favorite is probably Insomnia. But just because
really?
I don't really like Al Pacino. That might be a hot take, but
You don't like Pacino.
And probably The Dark Knight Rises. It's good, but it's not like I love it or anything.
Those are the two I haven't seen from Nolan.
Oh,
well, that and Following, but I don't know if that counts.
I've seen Following as well. That's a good directorial debut. Check him out. Check him out if you're interested. But Inception, I freaking love this movie. It's so good. It blends perfect storytelling, which is kind of hard to fathom because of how much exposition this movie has.
Yes.
The first hour of the movie is pretty much explaining what it is because it's such a hard concept to grasp. Even if you just sit and think about like what's the timeline, how does this, if you sit and think about it for an hour, you could just go in circles the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unbelievable how Nolan is able to explain the movie, because when I watched this last rewatch I watched with my mom, and I was like, if you're ever confused, let me know, because then I'll pause it and explain, because if you don't get it, then you're just going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
So I never had to explain anything to her because he does such a good job of explaining it.
Right.
Even though this concept is so otherworldly.
Yeah.
And even though he doesn't like beat us over the head because it needs that much, but it's a lot, and it still doesn't feel like, man, this is dragging or anything. Like, it still just feels like this is just the movie, you know?
Yeah. I've always thought of it as almost the concept is almost too good to be wasted on just one movie. Like, I don't want to say wasted, but do you know what I mean? Like, you could get like a 10-season TV show out of this concept.
On Inception, yeah.
Yeah, you could stretch this out for so long. And I've always thought that, maybe Inception could have been better as a miniseries or something like that. But, I mean, even then, it's just such a good concept that you feel like it's being wasted like on just one movie. But at the same time, you realize that Christopher Nolan is full of incredible ideas like this. So
absolutely,
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I also just love that Nolan crapped this movie out between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Like, he's like doing one of the best superhero movie franchises ever, and then he's just like, yeah, I'll just throw this in the middle. Like,
that's a passion project. Yeah.
That and The Prestige is so funny to me. He's just like, I'll just do them in between the other ones. It's fine. It's just funny.
It's so weird. It's so weird that he was under contract to do like 3 Batman movies, and in between he's just doing this other stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Good for Nolan, man.
He knows what he wants.
Yeah,
he knows what he wants.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the performances, because I think that's sometimes overlooked just because of how high concept this is.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite performance in this? I think that there's a lot of good ones.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is fantastic in
that. That's who I was gonna say. I really like
Cillian Murphy. Cillian Murphy.
He's great.
He's great.
I really like Ellen
semi-villain.
Page. Yeah, we'll discuss that later. But Ellen Page is great. Tom Hardy, very good, and kind of a comedic But then
Yeah.
he gets his moment to shine at the end too, and the actiony stuff. And we
Yeah.
should mention DiCaprio. DiCaprio is excellent, no question about it.
Well, I mean, Ken Watanabe as Mr. Saito.
Oh.
Fant.
That's given. Sorry, I didn't think we had to mention that.
Duh.
And obviously, Michael Caine, not a Chris Nolan movie without Michael Caine. We all know this.
Yes.
But no, cast is great. No one's mailing it in. Everyone's on their game, and it's the first hour and a half are very talky, so they get to show a little bit of range and some emotion too. Yep. But then they get to show some action-y side of things, especially with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and again, we'll talk about that in a little bit as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But let's talk about the villain, or is there a villain to this movie? I want to hear your thought on that. Is he a villain? Because
is Cobb a villain?
Bad.
Is Cobb a villain?
Good question. I
mean, you can't. Okay, well, I guess we're entering spoiler territory at this point.
Spoilers on Inception. Sam, continue.
But I mean, from a legal point of view, I mean, you can't just knock someone out while they're sleeping. Like, you can't just hook them up to your little dream machine and get them going. Like,
only you can do it in Arkansas though. It's a state law. They don't have it. So.
Well, it was on a plane. It wasn't on land. So I mean, you can.
Yeah, you can that in Arkansas, plane or Arkansas. You can do it. Just for our listeners.
You're off the ground. Oh, and by the way, God, I love that the entire movie just like basically takes place over the course of 20 minutes, but it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes or whatever it is.
It's a 2.5 hour movie. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It takes place over 20 minutes. Isn't that crazy?
It's
or the bulk of it does. The bulk of it takes place in 20
The
minutes.
bulk of it does. It's just a little. God, what a genius Christopher Nolan is. But anyway, is it a crime to break into someone's subconscious?
Good question.
I don't.
Let's talk about Cillian Murphy's his character's role in the movie. So he is going to be taking over his father's energy business, which is eventually going to take over the world, essentially, because they're the biggest and baddest, and they're essentially big corporate type thing. Like, we're taking them down.
Right.
So they're planting an idea. It spreads like a virus inside of his mind.
Yeah.
That he needs to get rid of
relinquish. Yeah.
The business, essentially, which is interesting. I mean, it's been done before, but not to this like scale or type, I suppose. But
yeah,
I do want to ask you, so essentially what they're going to do is make it so that he believes that his father wanted him to get rid of the business. And I want to ask you, does that work for you? How they're going to plant a pseudo memory in his brain that says his father actually did love him and that he wants him to be his own man. How does that work for you?
Yeah, that's a little trite, but I mean, it's the only way. You kind of write yourself into a corner there. It's really the only way to plant the idea, right, is have someone basically transform themselves within the dream to look like Cillian Murphy's father and talk to him with that whole thing. I mean, again, the thing about the entire structure of the movie is that it's incredibly rigid for being about dreams. Like, there are layers to these dreams. There's certain things you can do and can't do. You can change your appearance to look like someone else. You can there's a certain time limit to how long you're in the dream and how that translates to real world time.
So there's some rules.
Again, it's good to have rules. But when you're talking about dreams, that's incredibly structured. I mean, dreams aren't very structured, but it's incredibly structured in the movie. So, I mean, I guess your question probably points to that broader takeaway, which is that, it's very strange to have all these rules about dreams. But I guess that's what you got to do to make the movie work. How does it work with you then? Like,
So my thing is with anything where you have to make up certain rules, whether this is science fiction, most of the time it's science fiction, but sometimes horror or any thriller or whatever. If you tell me the rules of your universe, I'm fine with them. Whatever it is, because that's what the story is. But you
Yep.
have to stick to it. And Nolan does that, so I'm okay with it. As soon as like you say, it's 5 minutes in dream time is a minute in whatever in actual world. It isn't that in Inception, doesn't matter. But as soon as you say that, you have to stick to it. You can't be like, all right, we got 10 minutes left, and then it's been 5 minutes has passed in real time. Like that, okay, that math doesn't add up now. So as long as you stick to your rules, which you told me, I'm
Yeah.
game. It doesn't matter to me what you do as long as you stick to it.
Yeah. Which then goes back to the entire thing about Inception, which is it's incredibly expository. Like the first hour is just spent explaining the rules.
Yeah, it's a lot of exposition, which
so
this is uncharted territory for
Yeah,
movies, for
yeah,
you
exactly.
to explain it. I do like some of the dialogue with DiCaprio, where he's talking with Ellen Page, especially that cafe scene where they're talking and he goes like, they're just talking about whatever, and she's like, so how do you know you're in the dream or whatever? And he's like, how did we get here or whatever? And she's like, well, we took the cat, and she like can't remember because you don't know how you got to dreams. And that's so true, because like if you just think of a dream, you're like, where's the beginning of the dream? You always just end in the middle. Like that's just clever writing by Nolan. Just like kind of a throwaway thing almost. Like it didn't even have to be there, but it's clever to point out something that everyone experiences.
Yeah, and so we should point to the whole totem thing, right? So each character has a totem to be able to ground themselves and be able to tell whether they're in a dream state or they're in reality. So how does that work for you?
Before we get to that, because that'll transition to the end. We'll talk totem, we'll talk the end. And before that, let's talk about some of the action sequences.
Okay, yeah.
Because the totem kind of ties in with the end.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
Let's talk action. I really like the action of this movie, especially the snow planet stuff, or the snow world, snow planet. The snow area stuff, and the Joseph Gordon-Levitt rotating hallway scene is fantastic.
Yeah.
How do you like both those, or what's your favorite action sequence?
Oh, it has to be that hallway scene. I mean,
okay, that's my favorite too.
You can go on YouTube and find the video of them filming that scene, and that was practical effects. Like they constructed like this hallway, and then they constructed a machine to basically rotate it while the camera was filming. So they learned how to fight while this like basically structure was turning around and around. And again, like, that's kind of one of the iconic scenes from Inception, and it's one I had seen prior to seeing the movie. And I just thought, it's dreamy. It's supposed to be like that, but it has a real world explanation with the rules. Like, at that point, the car is flipping over in the first layer of the dream world, and that's why in the next layer, it has ramifications in the next layer of the dream.
Yeah.
And so the hallway is turning upside down. It's just, it's remarkable writing again.
That's great. That is great. But let's talk about the totem, because that's a conversation. I really like the idea of the totem. I think it's mostly just a plot device.
Yeah.
But it works in a sense for me. I really like the scene. So essentially, like, if your totem doesn't act the way it is supposed to act, you're in a dream. So you should kill yourself so you wake up in the real world, essentially. I love the scenes with when they go to separate rooms to test their totems while they have like a gun at their head. Because if that totem doesn't work, I'm in a dream. I need to get out. I think that's really clever writing that is put to screen very well. And the totem, although it is a plot device, I think it works for me. How about you? You sound a little hesitant about it.
No, I think it's good. It actually has real world research. I was actually talking to a mutual friend of ours, a teacher at school who's really into Christopher Nolan, and he was talking about when he was younger, he would like try lucid dreaming, and he did a ton of research about it. And the thing about lucid dreaming is you actually do need some sort of totem to be able to know when you're in the dream state. So the most common one he found out was you spend a lot of time staring at your hands throughout your day. So when you go into the dream world and you look at your hands, typically your mind is going to just register your hands as default, like without any wrinkles, without any kind of like palm kind of things. So when you see that they're kind of blank, you can know that you're in a dream. And I think that's what Nolan is going after. Like you need some sort of like physical
indicator type thing.
Indicator, yeah. And like when you're in the world of dream espionage, when you're in the business,
you have to know.
You have to know, or else, you know, if you're shooting someone you have to know if you're literally shooting someone or you're just waking them up.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk this one thing, hit grades, and let's talk a recommendation. Is Leonardo DiCaprio awake or dreaming? Here's my thought.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So essentially he finds his kids in the end, which we didn't even talk about, but whatever. We'll move on. Finds his kids. He spins his totem to make sure he's awake, but he doesn't really care. And then he's home to his family. He doesn't care. And it pans down to the totem and it's not working essentially. But then it starts to work. So maybe, but it should have gone away instantly essentially. So it's kind of ambiguous. Here's my thought is essentially his wife has the same totem as he does, but it does a different thing. And this is really far out there, but it kind of combines them almost as if she's a part of him now since that he let go type thing. And I think he's awake.
Yeah. There's two ways to separate this, right? First of all, I lost my train of thought. So Michael Caine said that in an interview, he said that he only agreed to do the movie if he was in the scenes that were actually happening in real life. So his claim is that last scene, since he's in that final scene of the movie, that scene does indeed take place in the real world.
To be fair, though,
he's not dreaming.
Even Chris Nolan himself has said he doesn't even know because he never made it to be true or false. So it is ambiguous for a reason. Nobody knows, but you can take it that way. Yeah.
I mean, that's just what I've read. I mean, I have different reasons for thinking that Leo is awake, namely that in the final seconds of the shot, you can kind of see the top start to spin out a little bit, like it's showing signs of falling over.
No, I think he's awake. I definitely think he's awake. I could just see if Christopher Nolan came out with an article, it was like, "Hey, this is why he's awake, and he's awake, and here's why." I'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool." If he also came out with an article and said he's dreaming, and this is why, I'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, I mean,
right.
By the way, I wouldn't want him to do that, but yeah, I mean, I could see it either way. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a very fair.
So, disregarding whether he's awake or asleep, does the ending work for you?
Yes, it does, because there's very good evidence both ways.
Sure.
Right? Like, it's not like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's obvious that there's no intended purpose.
Yeah.
With Christopher Nolan, he puts good evidence on either side, and that's good ambiguity, right?
Yeah,
Is when you can make an argument both ways.
Sure.
The other thing that I've read, and I think this is very true, is for Leo's character in the movie, really seeing his kids again is all that he cares about.
All that he cares about, yeah.
And for him, being awake, even if he's seeing his kids in a dream, it doesn't matter to him. He just wants to see his kids.
Yes.
So someone said online, someone wrote an article about this, and they kind of just said that, like, it doesn't matter if he's awake or dreaming. What matters is that our protagonist has fulfilled his obstacle, his purpose, and he's been reunited with his kids.
That's
right?
my thought on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's why the ending is so successful.
Sure, I'm a big fan of ambiguity as well. Let me decide how I think it ends. I'm a fan of that, as long as it's done well with this, which this obviously is. But
exactly.
let's hear your grade or your star rating for Inception.
I give Inception 4 stars out of 5.
Cool.
I think it is a great movie. I think I would consider it great. Absolutely. It is kind of, it's long, highly expository, as we talked about, especially at the beginning, but ultimately it's just a genius concept, genius execution, and entertaining as hell. And what's your star rating? Well,
This is in my top 25 movies of all time, so I'm giving it a 4.5 star. It's sandwiched right between The Sound of Music and Her. So
okay.
Number 20, it's sitting at. It gets 4.5. That's an easy rating for me. It is a great movie on all fronts. Super well rounded.
Yeah.
And very good. I mean, we kind of spoiled the whole thing, but check it out if you haven't seen it. And honestly, give it a rewatch too. Man, you just pick up on so much more on the second viewing as well.
Yeah, I have seen it twice. But I do have to rewatch it again.
This seems like an every year type viewing for me.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
you'll definitely pick up on something that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Inception, go check it out, everyone. It's on Amazon Prime as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
But
all right,
let's get to some recommendations. Sam, do you have any?
Let me think of one. You go ahead.
Okay. I'll go ahead. Maybe I'm cheating too, but cheating as well. But I'm gonna go another Chris Nolan movie, one that I mentioned, one that's not really talked about that often because it was one of his first. I'm gonna do Memento. As Sam was saying about pushing the envelope of something that's never been done, this is the actual definition of that, something that's never been done in movies. Yeah. This is taking, let's say, 20 scenes in a movie and shooting them all and then putting them in backwards order. So the last scene is shown first and the first scene in chronological order is shown last. Probably more confusing than this movie, I would say.
Yeah.
It's definitely trippier. So it might require a couple viewings just because of how incredibly insane it is, because you don't know what's going on until the way beginning, and very confusing. So
yeah,
that's gonna be mine though, is Memento. Guy Pearce is great. The whole cast is really good, but especially him, probably his best work. And for Nolan's second movie ever, I don't even know how you think of that in your mind and be like, how to storyboard that and make it.
I don't know. I think other people have thought of it before, but I don't know if anyone would have like the grit and the genius and the intuition
to write that,
to be able to actually put it down on paper and like write a screenplay.
Yeah, that makes even half sense. Is pretty unbelievable. So Memento. Let me real quick, and I know I'm a bigger fan of Memento than you are, but
yeah,
I think you still have it as a decent decent rating.
Oh,
though.
it's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's a
It's out
trippy
on-
watch.
It's out on a lot of free streaming services: Pluto TV, Tubi, Roku, IMDb TV. Never heard of that, but it's there. So go
Ooh.
check it out.
Oh, yeah, that'll be interesting.
Sam.
Yeah, so I haven't seen many good movies lately, like really good.
Sure.
But I did see The Sting, and we have big
Ooh.
differences on this.
We
We have
do.
big differences.
I do want to talk off air actually to you.
Yeah, we need to talk about this. But I loved The Sting.
And I was
This is
so
completely unrelated. Has nothing to do with Christopher Nolan. But
no,
man,
this is about what we've seen recently, or what relates, or we've seen recently. So this is what we've seen recently.
But The Sting from 1973, directed by George Roy Hill, starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford. It's just good. It's a wholesome movie about con men. Like, what else could you want? It's just it's like it's one of those like warm cup of cocoa movies, and it's fantastic. So and the reason I watched it is because it was streaming for free on Peacock TV.
Oh, cool.
And it was great. I watched like they have you watch like 100 seconds of commercials, like a minute and a half, minute 40, and then you got to watch the movie straight up for free, no commercials. So that was a great deal.
Yeah, I watched a movie. I watched a movie on Peacock today.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, is that where you saw it? I saw that you saw Tully with Charlize Theron, but I wasn't sure because I had seen it there. I hadn't watched it, but
on Peacock.
So,
So
it was there.
no, Peacock's great. So The Sting, you like it? All right, cool. Everyone do check that out. Actually, I'm sure I'm wrong about it, but let us know what you think, I guess.
Yeah.
But Sam, where can I find you on Letterboxd?
You can find me at sjdierberger. And where can I find you, Will?
You can find me on Letterboxd at Will Spalding, and you can find us probably in your dreams, stealing stuff or planting stuff,
giving you ideas.
We don't know yet.
Posing as your father.
We're going to be hired for something. We're not sure what though. But in case you'd want to find us in the real world, you can find us at Those Film Nerds on Instagram and at thosefilmnerds@gmail.com. Email in any questions or anything movie related to us, and we'll get back to you and talk about it on the show. But find us at anchor.fm/thosefilmnerds for all of our episodes, as well as any podcast platforms and on YouTube. But until next time, Sam?
Keep watching movies.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Have a good one.